Hello. If I sit down, can you see me at the back? I didn't hear. Can you see me better? Fine. First, can I thank you for this wonderful invitation to come to your island again. I last came before the pandemic, and a lot has happened to all of us since then. But to be in this amazing church, wonderful church, and to walk into it is just extraordinary. And you filled it, which is really wonderful. I know you were paid to come, and I think it's really... No, it's lovely. Thank you. Here's what I thought I'd do, if I might, is just to talk to you, I don't know, I hope you won't notice, but it'll probably be half an hour, 40 minutes, about what happened to me during the pandemic. I won't go into illness because I wasn't ill. It's how I passed the time, because I think it's in your heads as well that time needed passing in some way that we could live outside the threat of it all without thinking about it. And I'm here to tell you that if you're a writer, it was fairly easy. That's awful. Do you know people, I remember growing up, people would say, well, so-and-so had a good war. Do you remember that expression? Well, it's awful, but I had a good pandemic. I lost no one. I wasn't ill. And I'm a writer, and what do writers do? They write, and actually you write alone anyway. All I had in the house was my wife, who I quite like. We'd been married for 60 years. It sort of helped, very much helped. But when it comes to the time when you've got to think about what's serious in your life, but in my case is, yes, it's family, but it's writing as well. What to do? What do you do with this time? You know, I knew it was going to stretch. We all knew after, but it was going to stretch ahead. And I don't know, I work on my bed. I lie on my bed and, with pillows up behind me, because Robert Louis Stevenson did the same, and he's my great writing hero. So that's how I do it, and I look out in this window. There's a wonderful tree. I can see it in this tiny cottage window. You look out and there's this tree. And I was thinking, how am I going to fill this space? I wasn't in the middle of a novel. And then I thought something which was a bit radical for me. Change things, Michael. Don't just go on and write another story which you think people might like, children particularly. Do something different. Do something daring. And then I was thinking of really good times when I did something very daring, aged 6. I had an auntie who lived in Stratford-upon-Avon. She was a teacher. All my family were either actors or teachers. I'm a bit of both. And my aunties were mad about Shakespeare, and particularly mad that I should learn to enjoy Shakespeare. So the first thing they did was to give me a book of stories by Charles Lamb and his sister. Charles and Mary Lamb produced this book, and some of you may know it. One or two of you have been nodding away. Our first introduction, really, to the bard. He, unfortunately, wrote a very long time ago in extraordinarily beautiful language, which is not easy to understand if you're 6 years old. They knew that and gave me these stories to excite myself and my brother. And then they did a lovely thing. They said, if you get up early in the morning and you go and queue, we will pay for the tickets. So my brother and I would get out of bed really early, and our challenge to ourselves was to be there before anyone else in Stratford. And we'd stand there and we'd get our tickets. And I remember being quite scared, because you'd arrive in the early morning and there were foxes around and there were swans on the river, and we were alone in this town, and it sounds silly, but it was a bit scary. I don't know quite why. And then we'd be first in, and we got seats right up. And I'd see my first Shakespeare play, and so would Peter. Peter, my brother, went into the theatre. I should have been Benjamin Cumberbatch, but it didn't happen. I just ended up telling stories. But it began as a small boy of 6, this fascination really with Shakespeare. And the teacher in me says that there's a great tragedy in this country, and that is that so many children do not have the joy of reading or of going to the theatre, and over half of them don't see a Shakespeare play before they die. Well, he is our inheritance, you know, and we have this glorious thing in this country. There's a lot that's wrong about the country, but our language is extraordinary. I mean, quite extraordinary, mostly because it comes from all over the world. Everyone who's come here, either invited or to invade, dumps their language. And we pick it up and we work with it, and it becomes this thing called English. It's a bit French, it's a bit Latin, it's a bit Spanish. It comes together into this language. And we don't know it, we don't appreciate it very often, but it is the language we live by. And actually, I would say it's the most lasting gift we have given to the world. It's not cricket, and it's not football. It's the language and the theatre. We are extraordinary at making plays and making stories. So tell the tales, I said. Do what Charles and Mary Lamb did, but they did it a long time ago, and their language is almost as antique as Shakespeare's and hard for children these days. So give them a taste. Just give them a taste of Shakespeare. And then maybe they'll be like me, and then they'll want to queue up and get a cheap ticket into theatre. That was the sort of mission thing. So I lay on my bed and thought, what play shall I choose? Well, choose your favourite, you're silly. So that's what I did. I chose all my favourite plays. I knew there had to be variety. I wanted tragedies, I wanted history plays, and I wanted comedies. I have to tell you now, I wish I had never chosen to do one of the comedies. It's impossible to get your head around the plots of those ridiculous comedies. He's the only one who can sort it out. But I did. And what I was going to do, and I'm planning on doing now, is to read to you a bit from this book, see what you think of it. It's very important, actually, because if you like it, you'll go and buy the book. Which is seriously important to writers. I think it's important to be frank about this. It's how we earn our pension, you know. I think it's very important. And pensions are very important to people who were 80 last week. Joking apart, to work with Shakespeare, it lifted my spirits for fully 6 months, kept me contented. And I thought I'll just give you a tone of it. Midsummer Night's Dream. Hands up those of you who have ever seen Midsummer Night's Dream. Mad, isn't it? Completely mad. Why is it a mad? I'll tell you why. A Midsummer Night's Dream by Shakespeare and a bit by me. Strange how confusing a dream can be. How different stories seem to weave themselves somehow into one. Mostly we forget our dreams as soon as we wake up. This one is about as confusing as a dream can be. But when Will Shakespeare woke up, he did not forget it, which was lucky for us. Prepare to dream. To begin with, Duke Theseus of Athens and Hippolyta, once queen of the Amazons, were planning their wedding. This was all some time ago now, in fact, a very long time ago. There was in those days in Athens an unjust and unfair law that a daughter had to marry whoever her father said she should marry. And if she did not do as he said within 4 days, then he had the right to put her to death, which, you'll agree, was quite unfair. And of course, this could cause problems, serious problems, especially if the daughter wanted to marry someone else. Anyway, here's the situation. Concentrate now. Hermia is in love and wants to marry Lysander, but her father, Aegeus, insists that she should marry Demetrius. In fact, he's already arranged it. Of course, Hermia doesn't want to, because, as I've said, she's after Lysander. And she has another reason, too, for refusing her father. She knows that her best friend in all the world, Helena, loves Demetrius to bits, has told him so often and wants to marry him. And anyway, Hermia doesn't love Demetrius, but there's another problem. This story is full of problems, as indeed the world is. Demetrius has already turned Helena down. He's got eyes only for Hermia, but Hermia adores Lysander, so she refuses her father's wishes, and she and Lysander decide they have only one thing left they can do. They're going to run away into the forest and hide in Lysander's aunt's house there, where no one will ever find them, where they can be happy, and most importantly, where Hermia won't be put to death. Are you with me so far? I mean, it's truly wonderful. It sort of ties you up in knots. I won't go on, but you must go on. Read it. It's quite good. Now a change of tone. How on earth do you retell Hamlet? How do you do the thing? It's so well known to us, and that's the other problem with stories. I find this very often with stories, whether they're from the Bible or from Shakespeare. We're so immersed in them, it's difficult to see it for what it is, but I did my best. I will tell you that the first tragedy I ever saw, sounds awful, I will admit it. I had a row with my parents. I was about 12, 13, I think. I had a bad school report and I had a row. And I ran out of the house. It was in London. And ran down the hill. Didn't know whether to get on this bus or that bus, and so I got on that bus. And it stopped outside a theatre in London called the Phoenix Theatre. And I got out, and then it said Hamlet. And then it said a name I came to know later on, Paul Schofield. So I thought, okay, in I went, because I told you I quite liked Shakespeare, and I knew Hamlet was by Shakespeare. I'm not stupid. So I went in, and I sat in the gods again, and I saw this extraordinary man with a wonderful, wonderful voice playing Hamlet. I've never forgotten it. This all happened a very long time ago, but it could have happened yesterday. Little has changed. People don't change. We are much as our ancestors were, some treacherous, others troubled and tormented, some loyal and true, all of us led on as much by circumstance as anything, and circumstance can be as cruel as it can be kind. All was well in the kingdom of Denmark until the old king died. He had been much respected and loved in the land, as was his son, Prince Hamlet, the rightful heir to the throne. The king's death came as a great shock to the whole country. He had died unexpectedly, and no one knew why. He hadn't been showing any signs of illness. He had simply fallen asleep outside in the orchard below the castle one summer's afternoon and never woken up. Hamlet was away studying at Wittenberg University in Germany, which was far away. So it was some time, several weeks, before he heard the sad news. He came home as quickly as he could to find his whole world turned upside down. His beloved father was dead and buried. That was bad enough. But someone else was already king in his place, his uncle, his father's brother, Claudius, a man Hamlet had always deeply mistrusted and despised. Worse still for Hamlet was finding out how Claudius had obviously contrived to make himself king. He had, as soon as possible after the old king's death, married the widowed queen, his own sister-in-law and Hamlet's mother. This was a time in Denmark, then as now an enlightened country, when a successor to the throne had to be confirmed by an election, by the approval of the people. And elections, as we know, can be and often are all too easily corrupted by propaganda, by untruths and fake news. So with Hamlet away at university and not having yet returned, Claudius saw his opportunity. He knew Hamlet was thought by some to be too young to be king, to be rather unreliable and sometimes even irrational. Claudius often insinuated this to further his cause. In this way, he managed to persuade and bribe and bully and cajole until he had enough supporters to elect him king. Claudius gained the crown and was now on the throne in Hamlet's place. So the story is set. You know the rest, but that's what I tried to do. It's not just summing it up, it's trying to give the story as much impetus as I can on the page. And that's interesting because we're so used to seeing Shakespeare's stories on the stage. We kind of know what's going to happen, but the manner in which it's told is important. One more tragedy. before I get to, what have I done here? Oh yes, that's quite a good one. Well, I can't bury you in tragedy at the end of a beautiful day. What a beautiful day it was. Wasn't it a great day? I woke up and out of my window, I could see these. No, actually, when I woke up, there was guns firing. What the heck's all that about? I thought to myself, what are guns firing outside my window? And then the flags were popping up and down like goodness knows what. And then I thought, yes, it's got something to do with yachts. And I looked out the window, and what a scene. My goodness, to see them all going by the window was, it's because I wanted to lighten the spirit before I got into another tragedy. Macbeth! I will be brief with Macbeth because I just don't want to go there. Macbeth. Duncan, King of Scotland, 1,000 or more years ago, was the gentlest of kings. An old man much loved by his people, the grandfather of the nation. But his kingdom was constantly troubled by rebels from the north and invasion from the east and from Norway. And when these two joined forces against him, he needed the best of generals and a strong army more than ever. Macbeth and his second-in-command, Banquo, were the bravest generals, loved and trusted as much by their king as by their soldiers. They were the hope of all Scotland. Macbeth, in particular, was the hero of the hour. He led from the front, fought like a lion in battle, and won a great victory, putting the rebels to flight and driving the Norwegians back into the sea. The battle had been hard fought and hard won. These two great generals and best of friends were making their weary way back to Macbeth's home in the castle of Glamis over the windspread moor, looking only to be out of the cold and the rain, to feel the warmth of the fire, to eat a good supper and to bask in the welcome they knew would be awaiting them after their famous victory. In the half-dark and lost in mist, their horses became suddenly frightened and would not go on. The two generals soon saw why. Ahead of them, beside the track, were gathered three dark figures who seemed neither real nor unreal, neither women nor men. They might have been dressed as women, but they had the wizened faces of old men and long beards too. But when one of them spoke, it was with the tremulous voice of an old woman, the bravest of the brave. These two generals were, but they were as nervous as these three weird apparitions as their horses. The women spoke one by one, not to Banquo, but to Macbeth. Macbeth, Macbeth, came one reedy voice. Thane of Glamis, Macbeth, Macbeth, croaked another voice. And Thane of Cawdor too. Thane, Lord, I am neither. Macbeth whispered. What do you mean? I am no nobleman, just a plain soldier, a general. But then the third of these strange old women spoke. Macbeth, Macbeth, soon to be King of Scotland. Stuff happens after that. We'll finish with Shakespeare. We'll do something else. It's beautifully illustrated. All the illustrators in this book have illustrated my books before. One of them was chosen for each of the stories, the 10 stories. And the cover is just brilliant. It's got a portrait of William Shakespeare as you have never seen him before. Looking out of the cover, he's basically saying, you dare to read this, and children will love the threat. Anyway, you're not children, but I hope you might. I've told you why. It's my pension. I've explained it. I wasn't only writing retellings while I was enduring what we all endured. I decided, in my vanity, to become a poet. I thought so too. This is a serious thing, really. I've always all my life wanted to be a poet. I had the great good fortune to live down the road in where we live in Devon, deepest Devon, from one of the great poets of our time, Ted Hughes. And Ted Hughes fished in the river which runs around our farm. And he'd been a great supporter of the charity Clare, my wife, set up called Farms for City Children. And I know why now. Well, he told me at the time, but I know more and more. As you'll know if you know his poetry, he wrote a lot about the countryside. And he did say how wonderful it had been to be 13, 14, 15 and walking out of his urban house, but straight up onto the moors in Yorkshire. And that was his first important impression of the world about him. And from that, his poetry grew and grew and grew. So he supported Farms for City Children all the way through. So I kind of always had this yearning to do, as a writer, to be two things. I wanted to make my words sound together as well as Ted Hughes did, where the ideas fuse into the sound, which fuses into the rhythm, which what poets can do so briefly and wonderfully. I wanted to do that, and I also wanted to write stories as powerfully as, I've just told you, Robert Louis Stevenson, who was my hero as a writer. I wanted to move those things together. Well, I've been writing stories forever and a day. I never got to Robert Louis Stevenson, but I've tried, and I thought, about time, you're old enough now to write a poem or two. And I didn't know what to do, and the phone rang. I've always been a really, really lucky man. The phone rang. And it was someone who worked at Decca, the music people. And that's what he said, I work at Decca. And I thought, oh, I didn't know I was known for my singing. And he said, Michael, I met you sometime before, and I want to ask you something. I've got some wonderful musicians. They're called the Canny Mason family. And they want to make a DVD of a carnival of animals. And as many of you will know, in the Carnival of Animals, that there are poems or little stories in between the episodes to introduce them. Ogden Nash did a series of them. Other people have done it. And he said to me this man, would you like to write some poems? And I'm thinking, yeah. I did think deep down, why aren't you asking Michael Rosen or Roger McGough or someone who knows what they're doing? And so I said, she said, have you ever written any poems? I said, yeah. Anyway, I found myself with this commission to write, I don't know how many it was, 20-odd poems. And you know what it is when you have to do something? Someone has suggested you can do it. It's the most wonderful invitation to get on with it and do it. So I listened to A Carnival of Animals again and again and again, and I started writing these poems. Do you want to hear one or two? Yes. It's for the same price, honestly, but no. It's in a book that's beautifully illustrated now by Michael Foreman. I'm going to read you. You've got to imagine the music sort of after I've read it. Tortoises. You people are obsessed with speed. You know you are. You know the fable. Well, of course you do. The hare with the speed ego took a nap and I won. But what the hare didn't know, nor La Fontaine, was that I don't like racing. Don't see the point of it. I'm happy, we're happy being slow. Slow is good. Slow is cool. Imagine a world where we all go slow. No need to wish for cars or trains or planes. Imagine an Olympics where the slowest wins. Tortoises on every winner's podium, gold medals around our necks, and no need to build any more houses. We carry ours with us. And we're still here after millions and squillions of years. You may worship speed, but you'll wear yourselves out. We never do. We never have. Take it easy, go slow, and you'll go happy. Take it from a tortoise. And then they play this wonderful music. It was great, really good. We did it at the proms, which was a lot of fun. So people played the music, and I sat in the deepest armchair I've ever sat in my life. You try age 78 getting out of an armchair in front of 2,000 people or whatever it was, struggling out of an armchair. Silly people. Anyway, next one, different sort of animal, my favorite animal actually. I've written lots and lots of stories about elephants in my time, and here's the opportunity to write a poem, so I thought I'd do it. Elephant. The titles aren't very subtle, it's just how it is. Elephant. My child once looked up at me and asked, "Why do you cry, Mama?" "Well, because sometimes I am sad," I told her. "But why are you sad?" she asked. "Well, because you are so small and beautiful, and I love you more than I can say." "Will I cry too when I am older, Mama?" "I hope so, and I hope you will laugh too." "Will you show me how to laugh, Mama?" "I will show you," I replied. "I will show you everything." When I trumpeted my love and my laughter all over the savannah, the grasses and trees shivered with joy, and so did my child. I went on being so happy writing poems, and they're nice and short. You can achieve an awful lot rather quickly. I thought I'd write some more. Do you remember I told you earlier on, I think I did, I'm very forgetful these days, but I think I said when I was lying on my bed I could see a tree. Do you remember? Did I say that? Well, give me a clap for saying it then, please.
Roll it. You don't need to touch anything.
That tree is very precious to me. I know it sounds silly, but we've lived in this place for years and years and years. And that tree, and you'll know what I mean, trees can become, should become, personal, really. And we should be as connected as we can be. So that when something happened, as happened the other day, on the border between Scotland and England, it's a scream that rises inside most of us. They are precious, and I knew that tree was. And so I thought I will write about lots and lots of trees. I'll write some poems and I'll write some stories. And they found a wonderful illustrator, my publisher. And I just wanted to I wanted me to think more about trees and what we use them for and how they are to us. So I'll read you one poem and one story. Excuse me, I should blow my nose. I'm sure you think writers don't need to do these things. They do, honestly. They do. Nice handkerchief, isn't it? You're getting the message, finally. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. The reason I wrote it was because we have in our sitting room at home a chair, which we came across on Orkney, up in Scotland. It was a remarkable chair made by local craftsmen of driftwood, wood washed up from the sea, and with a sort of rush seat and a rush back. I think that I see them as storytelling chairs, really. They're very ancient in terms of what they look like, but they're very comfortable to sit in. And I thought, write a poem about driftwood. This chair was born where I was born, in the forests of Nova Scotia, about 1,000 years ago. Maybe more, but who's counting? This chair has had as many lives as a cat. I know, because I am this chair. I made this chair what it is, what I am. This is the history of a chair, of me. Call it my autobiography. First life, which began the day I fell from a red oak tree, dropped and bounced into leaves, lay there for days, waiting, but didn't know what for, nor why, until a jay came down, hopped over to me, picked me up in his beak, and off we flew. He buried me deep in the forest floor, covered me up, hid me from squirrels, but must have forgotten all about me, about where I was, which was fine for me, as you'll see, because I got to have a second life. which was to be the luckiest life of my life. Dormant for a while until there came a spring that warmed me through, that gave me longing, a longing for life that grew inside me like a burning hope, like a faithful promise. A green shoot broke me out of earth at last and began to make a sapling, then a tree of me. Deer nibbled elsewhere and let me grow strong and tall, up towards light and sun, towards a third life, which was long. As seasons came and seasons went, falling of snow followed falling of leaves, till the sun came each spring to warm me through, and I grew ever taller, ever stronger, ever older. Branches spread, bark thickened, roots deepened. Winter blew in, did its worst to all of us every year. Lightning crackled and struck, but I lived to grow old. I dropped more acorns, shed more leaves, stood there still, till, wearied and weakened by the passing of age, I came to my fourth life, which I knew had to come one day, as it must to us all. It took a great and terrible storm to tear up my roots and blow me down. Long I lay there and thought of the forest life I'd had, of the bears that stood up to scratch their backs against my trunk, of the squirrels who made their homes every year in me. But that was all over now. That was all done. All I could do was lie there and wonder if my family would still be standing, live long after me. I hoped there might be not an end, but a new life now for me, a fifth life, which there was, but a change entirely of life. The end of me as tree and the beginning of me as wood. I remember how the loggers found me, walked and talked around and about me, climbed and clambered all over me, how they brought out their saws and took off my branches and trimmed my trunk, how horses hauled me through the forest, floated me down swirling rapids to lie there in a boatyard to dry, where the people came to admire me, children to play and climb on me. "You'll make the finest boat," they said, patting me. And so began my sixth life. As a fishing boat, I was to be mast, keel, hull, and decking too. They stripped off my bark and sawed me up. They planked me and planed me and made me boat. Sky blue I was painted, Sky they called me. I was pride of the port the day I set sail. The band played, they bedecked me with flags. They cheered and they clapped. Their sky and their joy I was, as I sailed out into wind and waves that heaved me and creaked me, but I'd been tree. I knew how to be strong. Wind and sea were to be all the same to me in my seventh life. Or so I thought. I was the biggest, fastest boat they'd ever had. Everyone said so. I was Sky. I was proud to be me, to be loved as I was. This was the life for me, the best a new life could possibly be. I was a lucky boat too. The fish and the gulls seemed to love me, follow me. So we filled our nets and trip after trip came safely home, our barrels full, fish to eat, fish to sell. Sky had done it again. Happy days, happy years for them, for me. Unsinkable, they told me I was, and I thought so too. Till the day we hit the iceberg and my eighth life began. On our way home, sailing along nicely, wind behind us, harbour and home in sight. But iceberg was waiting, lurking, unseen, sharp, sliced us open below the waterline, left us sinking. They came out to save us, rode out through the waves, and save us they did. Everyone on board, not a soul lost. But they could not save me. Wave and tide and wind drifted me in, dashed me on rocks, broke me in pieces. Sky was lost. I was lost, which brings me to my ninth life of flotsam and jetsam, most of me sunk, except the keel. Tide took me out, what was left of me, and floated me out to sea, where wild storms took me and tossed me and turned me, and brought me at last to a strange, treeless shore, washed me up on a sandy beach, in amongst the cowrie shells. She was searching for cowries, and found me there. The remnants of the keel of me took me in, dried me and cared for me, carved me fondly, sanded me too, made an Orkney chair of me, sits on me, and tells her children the story of me as driftwood, where I came from, how I came to be here, and chair told them all the 9 lives of me. I listen too, as they do, over and over again. I love her story, my story. Hope you have too. Thank you. I won't read much more now because it gets boring. But I want to tell you the most exciting thing that happened during lockdown, apart from the fact that it ended. 22 years ago, almost exactly, I got a phone call from a nice man who said he was a film producer. And he said he wanted to make a film of a book of mine. Well, I thought, we might as well continue the conversation. So I said, what do you have in mind? And he said, well, we have just read your book, Kenski's Kingdom, which is certainly one of my favorites. I'll tell you a bit about it in a moment. I won't read anything. He said, we really think it could make a wonderful, wonderful film. And, we'd like you to see the script and stuff like that. And so fine. So everything was signed, and I thought, well, it's fine. 6 months' time, you'll be a rich man. Not like that at all. They were lovely people. I knew that from the start. They really cared about the book, really cared about the story. Let me tell you the story very, very quickly so that you know what I'm talking about. It has the best first line I have ever written. Actually, it's the best first line anyone has ever written. I will deliver it. And then I won't read any more, I promise. I disappeared on the night before my 12th birthday. Well, that's the best I can do, all right? Anyway, the lovely thing is they loved the book. So what happens then with some of these things, it all goes to sleep. You don't hear and you don't hear, and you just hope it's going along all right. But actually what I did hear was that they had a wonderful man called Frank Cottrell Boyce to write the script. And they sent it, and it was beautiful. It was going to be a feature-length animated film. They got wonderful actors to voice it, and I thought this is going to sail away. It's just going to be no problem at all. It's the story of a family where everything goes wrong, and man loses his job, woman loses her job at roughly the same time, and a gloom descends, and they both decide, mother and father, to do what they've always wanted to do, which is to sail around the world. They were going to sell the house, sell the car, buy a boat, and sail around the world. And trouble is, they've got a son, and they had a dog. And I just thought to myself, when I was writing this story, if they could land on an island, but not all of them, just the boy. How am I going to separate the boy from the parents? Not a problem. Read it and you'll find out how I did it. And the dog. Important, the dog's on the island as well. So boy and dog. Swim, swim, swim. They've fallen off the boat. They go land on this island. Parents have sailed off into the darkness. Really good idea in a book to get rid of parents. They've gone. You've just got boy and dog. And they think they're alone and terrified. And all he wants to do is to find a way of attracting a boat so that somehow the mother and father can come back and find him. Instead of which, they wake up one morning and there's a plate, some fish on it, and some fruit. And they know they're not alone on the island. They're not going to starve, which is great. What they've done is to land on an island where there's a Japanese soldier from the Second World War who has stayed behind. This is not an invention of Morpurgo. It happened to at least 3 Japanese soldiers. And the longest stayed there, wait for it, for 27 years. Robinson Crusoe did 4. And I just thought, this is wonderful. I'm going to have a boy from today, from now, from us, this culture, meeting up with an ancient Japanese warrior from another time, and they're going to have to share this island together. Anyway, I wrote the story. To continue the story of the film, it went on and on and on. And as some of you will know, films wait not just for the creative side to happen, but for the money to come in. And the money did come in. But it was never enough. They got up to, I don't know what it was, 5 or 6 million, and they were halfway through, and it all got very exciting. We'd even have a dinner in London to celebrate we're halfway through. Then 2 days later, you get a phone call saying, oh, the Irish have pulled out, the French have pulled out. And it goes down again, and you almost have to start all over again. So an extraordinary thing happened, a benefit from the pandemic. What happened was I was phoned up, I think in 2020 it was, by the producer, and he was in tears. He said, Michael, we've been doing this 20 odd years, and we can't go on. We've asked everyone, we've been back and back and back to people. Only one thing that we can do, one thing left, and that is to go to the British Film Institute, the BFI. They did say, when they gave us a first grant of 300,000, come back if there's a big problem. We can't help you with a big problem, but if you've got a little bit you need, another 100,000 or so, come back. All I can do is to go and beg them. But I'm here to tell you, Michael, I think this is coming to an end. And he was in buckets of tears, so I was in tears too. I was very upset for them, really. I hadn't been so close to the project, anything like that. Anyway, he rings up 2 weeks later. He's still in tears. I said, oh, it's happened. He says, no. He said, I don't believe it. He was like, I don't believe it. They're giving us all the money. I said, what do you mean all the money? 1.5 million. They've never given a grant as big as this. I said, why? I'm not rolled on. Why have they done this? And he said, it's the pandemic. People aren't making films. They can't get out there and do it face to face. So they've got money left to put into animation. So Clare and I saw the finished film the other day. And what's really wonderful is when you at last see a film. I've had it with plays. The theatre's been really good to me in all sorts of ways. But it's the first time I've ever had a film where you simply cannot believe how good it is. The animation is beautiful. The acting is out of this world. The script is out of this world. Nothing wrong with it. In fact, I hate to tell you, but it's better than the book. Now, look, I tell you what I think we've done. I think we got to the moment where it's time for questions. Is that right, Phil? Time for questions. If there's anything you want to ask, that's what I'm here for, sort of. Have you noticed the flowers? Could you please give a clap to the people who took the flowers here? made this church so lovely. It's just wonderful. Thank you. Is there anything you want to ask? I'll come along.
There is a roving mic. If you put your hand
I'll be
up,
roving.
it'll be
I like
with you.
walking. Thank you very much. Yes.
It's a very boring question.
Fine. Okay. It's a very boring question, and
As a writer, what is the best tip you could give to any other writer?
well, if they're already writers, I wouldn't give them any tips at all, because they're competition, for God's sakes, No, seriously, there's a serious thing. Children often ask me, and I think it's important they get to know that every writer is different. We come at the thing differently. But for me, that's all I can say to you, is that the first important thing to do is to live a really interesting life, is to meet people, go places, wake up in the morning and see boats sailing across the sea like that. You can't imagine it. You can't imagine it. You have to see it. And you can't see it on the movies either. You have to see it yourself. You have to smell it. And then you have to talk to people who live, for instance, on this island, and find out how it is to be on this island. It's not just a place you arrive in a boat and go around and go back again. You keep asking, and finding out what the difficulties are. I'm going to talk to you a minute about literacy on this island, because I found out about it. Not because I'm clever, I just love asking questions about places and people. So you fill your head then with all sorts of stuff. I write if I can. I'm a bit lazy, but I do write something each day, a line, 2 lines, about the most important thing that's happened to me today. And today I met someone in the street who just happened to have met me some time ago. And very quickly, I've got no clue who this person is. Very quickly, he was telling me about a daughter of his who's very poorly. In the middle of the street, in a place I'm not familiar with at all. There's human contact going on. Well, I know what I'm going to write about tonight. I'm going to write about what he told me about his daughter, because it's important to me. So you get close to other people's stories. I'm close to my own stories because of my own memory. Luckily, I have most of my memories. This lovely wife I've got is brilliant because we're both bad on names. We do remember each other's names mostly. But it's becoming sort of serious sometimes. I remember the first name and then she chips in with a second name sometimes. So we're losing that sort of a memory. But my memory of my childhood is extraordinary and fresh. So I can remember running away from school at the age of 7. And I can remember everything about it, running down the drive or the crunchy gravel, going past the rusty gates, turning left, and knowing I've got 100 miles to go to home. And all I want to do is to escape from this dreadful place. And there are all these memories that come back. And there's a teenager. I met up with a guy he's known on this island. He's called Martin White. I think he's here somewhere. He'll probably start shouting at me now. But we met up in the army. So I'm 17, 18. He's 17, 18. And we're cadets together. And we still know each other. I'm the wrong side of 80. He's the right side of 80. But it's... but it's lovely. It's a friendship that's lasted and lasted. And then it becomes precious to you. And when things become precious and you care about them, that's when you write about it. And it might be political. I get very angry with the way government has gone. I mean, for instance, I have a problem at the moment in the sense that my family are wonderful people, but each of the children has married someone from Europe. I have 8 European grandchildren. No one is going to tell me I'm not European. Do you understand? So I am political. I travel to lots of other countries, to France, to Germany. I've written stories, I think, about 50, 60 countries I don't know. Other countries and other cultures really interest me. So is that an answer? That's a lot of answer. I think you're going to have to pay me extra for that.
It wasn't a question, but may I just wish you a happy 80th birthday?
Bless your heart. Thank you very much indeed. Yes, please. Yes. You'd like to read me something?
Sorry.
Well, is it complimentary or horrible?
That's for you to decide, I think. This is an email I got this morning from my daughter who says, "Oh, the book festival sounds fun. Michael Morpurgo, that's exciting. Tell him I said thank you for a great time at Nethercott. I remember it to this day, and him waking us up in the night to take us to help deliver the lambs, and then taking us out to see the stars in the pitch black. You can also tell him you still remember how I smelt when I got home."
Thank you. Well, it's lovely. Thank you. There we are. That's something I shall write about as well. Thank you. Yes. Hang on. A proper person is a child.
Oh.
Yes. What inspired me to write Warhorse? Some of these people won't have read Warhorse, so I'm going to check before I answer. Otherwise, they'll sit there looking fed up. Okay? Could you put up your hands if you've read Warhorse? Put up your hands if you haven't read Warhorse. Well, shame on you! Anyway, what's your name? Alexandra. Alexandra's asked the question, why do I write this book? It's called Wars. Those who haven't read it, it's a story about a horse that goes to the First World War. You've got a very famous one locally around here, I know, Warrior. I wrote this story, answer your question, because I went to the pub one day, which we shouldn't say to children, but I went to the pub one day in my village. And in my village of Iddesleigh, I knew there were 3 octogenarians. Do you know what an octogenarian is? Well, you should do. 80-year-olds. I am an octogenarian. Will you say octogenarian? Never forget it. There were 3 octogenarians living in my village, all of whom I was told had been to the First World War as soldiers. And I had read the poetry of the First World War. I had run novels about the First World War. I had visited the battlefields around Ypres and places like this. I'd been interested in it, and I'd been a soldier. So all of these things meant to me, a lot to me. The First World War meant a lot to me. But I had never, ever met anyone who'd been there face to face. And I sat across, there's a fireplace there, we were in 2 chairs, and I just said to him, "Wilf, they told me you've been to the First World War when you were a young lad." He said, "Yep." People in Devon don't talk very much. It takes a time to get them going. So I said, and you were 17? Yep. I was going nowhere fast. It was just so difficult. And then I have no idea why, but he started and he talked. There was a monologue that went on for about an hour and a half, 2 hours or something. How it was to be 17. It wasn't poetry. It wasn't a story. It wasn't a film. He was talking memory, as clear as that. And I sat there and thought, this is just extraordinary, because I'm really now getting some sense of what it was like for someone barely out of school to live through what these people had to live through. And one thing he said to me, which I never forgot, certainly haven't forgotten since, is he said, I asked him what regiment at one point he was in. He said, Devon Yeomanry. And then he said, I was there with horses. Full stop. And then he went on and he said, I had lots of pals and a lot of them didn't make it home. But he was my best pal. My horse was my best pal. And I then said, well, what do you mean? How can you be that? He said, well, because you could not talk to your friends who were going through the same horror that you were going through about what you were feeling here, because they were going through it too and they didn't want to talk about it. So you couldn't talk about anything. You couldn't even talk about how much you longed for home, how much you longed to run away, all the things that were there churning around in your head and the things that you'd seen and wanted to forget. And he said, I had to go to the horse lines at night. And I'd stand there and I'd put my hand on the neck of my horse and I'd tone this horse. And he listened. And I thought, even then I thought, this is maybe a bit sentimental. How could that be important? And then just not long after, I'd had this extraordinary conversation back at the farm, which we just had a sort of a message from the farm, because the whole idea of it is that the children come close to animals, whether they be lambs or horses or cows or chickens or whatever. I had walked into the yard one evening, dark evening in winter, November night, to read them a story. And it's a big Victorian house like Hogwarts, and it's real. And he walked in, and there was this boy standing by the back door, right by the stables, with his slippers on, and it was pouring with rain. And I recognized him. He was a boy called Billy, and Billy didn't speak. He did not speak. No one knew what it was at the school. He'd had some trauma or other. No one knew what it was, but he didn't speak. And they told me, the teachers had said, we know what you're like, Michael. You point the finger at people and you ask them questions. Well, don't do it with Billy because he'll run back to Birmingham. This is Devon, it's a long way. So all week I'd just kept my distance and I observed him, watched him. And it's true, he didn't say a word to the children, a word to the teachers. And with the animals, he had somehow some sort of feeling and instinct. He really was the first to put his hand under a chicken to pick up the warm egg. He loved doing that. And he loved to drive the cows out. No nerves, nothing at all. But he had this speech thing, whatever it was. And then I was walking in the yard on this dark evening, and I heard this boy, Billy, talking. So I got the teachers, and we all came round through the vegetable garden and listened. And they couldn't believe it. They'd never heard him have a conversation with anyone. And there he was telling a horse what he'd done that day. On and on and on. The word, no stutter, nothing like that. The words were flowing out. So then I thought to myself, this isn't sentimental. That a relationship between yourself and a sentient animal is real. Of course, the horse didn't understand how many calves there'd been up on the farm. But what that horse understood, and I could tell from the body language of the horse, she knew, the horse knew, that it was important to stay there and be part of this relationship. So it gave me the confidence to write the book. So that's why I wrote the book. Have you read it? Did you see the play? Well, when it comes on again, which I hope it will quite soon, do go and see it. They made unbelievable life-size horses, puppets. This is a National Theatre. Is this your mother? Talk to your mother. Tell her it is a really short trip across the sea to Southampton. Whiz up on the train, get out and go and see it. It's the play of your life. It's just completely wonderful. the stage, when it's live, there's something about the stage being live. It's really exciting. Promise me you'll go if it comes back on again? Alexandra, are you promising there or are you just saying it? I'm going to say one more thing here. Can I just say, I want to say something myself, can I? So they're going to stop me. They're trying to stop me. Could you stand up, please? Do you mind? Right. I'm standing here, some of you may not know, but this is the Isle of Wight equivalent of the Sheriff of Nottingham. May surprise you, she's a sheriff, and she has started something quite wonderful, which I know others of you are joining in, which is a drive, really, to get children reading in your schools, which I think is rather wonderful. I didn't know sheriffs did this. I thought they chased outlaws. So first of all, give her a big clap, would you? Then just to say how important this is, what they're looking for, and I've got a piece of paper here, sheriff's instructions. And it's really important because it's how you can help if you feel that you want to sort of join in. What she is telling me, and I believe her, is that we need, she says, more volunteers to support reading in island primary schools. By listening to children read and the confidence that it gives them, the enjoyment that it gives them. She wants you to go to, and I'm not very good at this stuff, schoolreaders.org. Does that mean anything to you? Fine. And sign up, please. It's a big please from someone outside the island who really loves this place. I come here and I just think it's absolutely wonderful, but it's horrifying to know that here, as in so many other places, in my Devon, so many kids don't read. So many of them don't get to that point where they can read for pleasure, and how important it is to support it. She does want commitment of 1 academic year for the minimum, if you can, of 1 hour a week. That's all, 1 hour a week, which ain't a lot, and it really will help a life. And she actually says it's brilliant fun too. Now, I had to do this. I was under the cosh. the cosh of someone in power like this, you know. I don't know if you know about Nottingham, but there were really nasty prisons there. Anyway, is that all right?
That's
Give her the support.
Thank you so much.
I was just going to ask a supplementary question, actually. Is that across the island?
It's across the island.
OK, I might catch you at the end, because I'm actually an English tutor. I own my own tutoring company. So I'd love to connect with you. I think
That would be great.
I've also recently connected with you, Sir Michael. You actually answered some questions for my magazine.
Which is the magazine?
11 Plus Connect.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
That's you?
Yeah, I might sneak a picture with you after, if that would be possible. I'll do my hair as well.
I'm under all sorts of... Look at the hand at the back. That means I'll shoot you if you don't stop. One more question. Is there another child here? Another child who wants to ask a question? Ah, is there a child? He doesn't look like it, but he is. Yes. 17. I know you don't qualify. No, it's good.
Are there any books that you've read that you wish you wrote?
Oh, goodness, don't start me, yes. Shall I tell you one? And then you can go away and find it. There's a wonderful book called The Man Who Planted Trees by Jean Journeau. Have you read it? Fine, okay, be like that. You come here on your own or with parents? Fine, could you please sort him out? I want questions that I can answer with some authority. Lovely to have met you. I think I've got to shut up, so...
One question from the back.
Yes,
It really must be the last.
Yes, last.
Thank you for listening. I represent the Isle of Wight Story Festival. I'm the director, and we do a tremendous amount of work in putting on a 3-day festival. We have a whole team of volunteers and creatives who help us. We've just got the Make a Difference, BBC Make a Difference Award, which was a great boost to us and our efforts. This year, 2023, we not only had our festival event, in February half term, but we also went out to 4,000 children and staff in schools over 2 days. We brought completely free, we brought authors and performers, live performance,
great.
poets, performance poets to schools on the Isle of Wight in deprived areas. And I can happy to say that Lord Louis Library, which is Central Library, reported that summer reading challenge figures have gone the highest ever in the summer for children coming in and engaging with that reading challenge. So I think we're kind of trickling upwards somehow. So
Great. Could I ask
I
you,
really
if you've
wanted to
done this,
tell
why
you.
did you not ask me?
We will.
No, I don't want to know. I just know you
we
didn't.
will, yes. We will.
Can I just... Right, there's one more thing I've got to do, which is I always promise to do, because I like to do it. Are the doors all locked? Can we make sure the doors are locked, because I don't want anyone to escape in the next 3 minutes? Okay, well, look, I'm going to sing you a song. It's a song from The Show of Warhorse, which I loved. It's a folk song, and it won't last too long. And I love singing it, and it's my parting gift to you, really. And if you ever do want to see the play, you'll hear lots more of this singing and done by proper people. It's called Barleycorn, and it's really about, more than anything else, it's about the seasons passing and hope. Cruel winter cuts through like the reaper. The old year lies withered and slain, and like barleycorn who rose from the grave, a new year will rise up again. And the snow falls, the wind calls, the year turns round again. And like barleycorn who rose from the grave, a new year will rise up again. And I'll wager a hatful of guineas against all of the songs you can sing, that someday you'll love and the next day you'll lose, and winter will turn into spring. Ploughed, sown, reaped and mown, the year turns round again. And like barleycorn who rose from the grave, a new year will rise up again. I will garland a bonnet of daisies to crown you the Queen of the May, and all shall behold the seasons unfold as surely as night follows day. Phoebe, arise, her gleam in her eyes, the year turns round again. And like barleycorn who rose from the grave, a new year will rise up again. But there will come a time of great plenty, a time of good harvest and sun. Till then put your trust in tomorrow, my friend, for yesterday's over and done. And the snow falls, the wind calls, the year turns round again. And like barleycorn who rose from the grave, a new year will rise up again.